Can we wait 2 minutes for Anil Kumar Jain?
Sure. So all participants, please make sure that you're muted if you're not a speaker.
Jolly, you can mute them all.
Okay, well, if I mute all or mute you as well, so that's the last thing I'll do if I have to. I see Anil Kumar Jain. I'm going to make him co-host just to.
Hello, Mr. Anil Kumar Jain. Good morning.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Mohan.
Yeah, thank you. Nice you came in time.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Jolly, shall we start?
I'm just going to make Samir Gupta a co-host as well, so that he's there. So I have one thing to do here. Yes, you can start if you want.
Okay. Good morning, all. The format of this event, the format of this event is that in the engineering colleges where we have the academic hubs, they're having a session in their auditoriums. So all may not be logged in right now, but lots of people must be watching it from their auditoriums. So that's the structure. That's how it is structured. So, my dear ISOC academic hub members, hub leaders, faculties, Mr. Anil Kumar Jain, the chair of UASG, Universal Acceptance Steering Group of ICANN, Mr. Samiran Gupta, Vice President at ICANN, based in Delhi, Mr. Champika Wijayatunga, Senior Manager at APAC, Asia Pacific region of ICANN, my fellow EC members and active members of ISOC Hyderabad chapter, good morning to all of you. It is truly a pleasant day today with so many people responding spontaneously to our call. And as examinations are taking place in most of the colleges, lots of academic hubs could not register and join today, but still, and we have 750 registrations in spite of that. It's a very happy situation. Yeah. ISOC was established, it is a global society established in 1992 to reach the internet to the unreached with good quality and reliable internet. ISOC works closely with ICANN, IETF, then IAB. IETF is Internet Engineering Task Force, and ICANN is Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, and IAB, Internet Architecture Board, and then IGF, Internet Governance Forum of United Nations, and many more internet forums. We work very closely. So as there's not much time, I will just rush with my talk. We at the Internet Society Hyderabad chapter, we have made tie-ups with CDAC for DNS studies and IETF for IPv6. We have done one event with IETF, and then ICANN for Universal Acceptance, DNS and IDNs. IDN is Internationalized Domain Names. DNS is Domain Name System. UA is Universal Acceptance. So for all these things, we have we have a tie-up with ICANN. Also, we have communicated, corresponded with government of Telangana for artificial intelligence. They have good projects, and they're working on a huge summit in the month of July. So I have spoken to the government officials. They are open to have a collaboration with ISOC. So we'll be having a collaboration with the government of Telangana. Then for cyber security, we have tied up with the DSCI, Data Security Council of India. And we also have a SIG at ISOC. We'll be working with them also. Then for IoT, we have tied up with ISOC SIG. SIG means Special Interest Group at Internet Society. And with them, we are working on IoT. Then we have FTCCI, Federation of Telangana Chambers of Commerce and Industry, wherein I am the chair of the ICT committee for past 5 years. So there we have tied up with the FTCCI for the industry problem statements for our students to develop projects. So mostly student community, they're relying on a theoretical problem statements, whereas from FTCCI, it will be industry-driven problem statement. So we have tied up with FTCCI for this purpose. And the projects and programs have to be planned and scheduled. For this, let's have a meeting of the academic hub coordinators and hub student leaders in May 2024. So I will communicate with the date for this. Let's have a marathon session and plan all the activities in above projects. Then ISOC Foundation, ICANN, IETF have many offerings to the academic community, and ISOC Hyderabad has plans to leverage these offerings. So let's work on them. For example, Internet Foundation has offered a course on defining and deploying computer networks, DDCN, and we are working on it. We have identified faculties, and faculty will be trained for 6 weeks, and then they will train the students. So we will be selecting few students and then giving the training on DDCN. Similarly, on the DNS security also, ICANN will plan a workshop. For that, we have to do the selection process. Unique with the ISOC Hyderabad chapter is that we are working with academic hubs, which is not there elsewhere in the world. Only our chapter, we are working with academic hubs. So because you're all interested in learning the latest things, emerging technologies, we thought that we should reach you. Then I will just briefly say a few of the events we have done. First thing was on the future of internet, wherein all of our speakers today, and Mr. Anil Kumar Jain also was there, Mr. Samiran was there, and all these resources, they participated on 10th of April 2021. On that day, our chapter was inaugurated, and we have done a day-long workshop on future of internet. Then workshop on universal acceptance, workshop on universal acceptance for globally connected internet. It was again a day-long workshop. It was organized in June 2021 by us. There again, Mr. Anil Kumar Jain also addressed us, and Mr. Samitan also addressed us. And we have done a local hub for APR IGF, Asia Pacific Regional Internet Foundation, Internet Governance Foundation. We have done a local hub, which was chaired by the government secretary, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan. It was a very good success. We had a webinar on community networks, and we had a workshop on internet measurements global routing and online privacy. Then we had a remote hub for IGF, that is Internet Governance Forum of United Nations. We had a local a remote hub here, and we have done it successfully. Then we made a workshop on IPv6 migration, need, issues, and processes on 18th April 2022. So then we had a universal acceptance and email address internationalization workshop at IIIT Hyderabad. And later, very recently, on 30th of March 2024, we have done a seminar on DNS security in collaboration with CDAC in Microsoft campus. Actually, these are only very few of the events, but then with individual academic hubs, we have done many more. Those details will be there in the report. So that's about the chapter. Now, I invite Mr. Anil Kumar Jain. He is presently the chair of the UASG, Universal Acceptance Steering Group at ICANN. He was the CEO at NICSI prior to this. And even prior to that, he was holding very senior positions in the telecom and BSNL and such organizations. So I invite Mr. Anil Kumar Jain to speak about the universal acceptance. I have not spoken anything about the universal acceptance because we have the resource persons to speak on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohan, for inviting me, and thank you, Internet Society Hyderabad chapter, for arranging this seminar on universal acceptance. First of all, let me tell you that globally we are celebrating Universal Acceptance Day from 1st March till 30th of May. And world over, there are several workshops, seminars are being conducted to celebrate the Universal Acceptance Day. So first of all, let us understand what is universal acceptance. You know, the problem definition of universal acceptance, because this appears to be a French word, and good number of us are not aware about this. So there are two aspects of this. Number one, the domain which is used to access any content on internet. Use the top level domain like .com, .org, .in. These are domains, the top level domain in English. Now, let me inform you that world over, ICANN has delegated more than 1,500 top level domain, which include both country code top level domain as well as generic top level domain. Out of 1,500 plus top level domain, there are approximately 150 domains which are non-English domain. They are in local languages. For example, in India, we have top level domains .bharat in all 22 official recognized languages, which is an honor to India because no other country has so many non-English top-level domain, which we called IDN, internationalized domain names. So first of all, we should be able to access content on internet using domain which is non-English, because more than 60% of the world population do not converse in English. And in India, this is more prominent because 82% plus Indians do not converse in English at all. So you can understand the gravity of this particular problem, and universal acceptance is working to resolve this particular issue. The second aspect next to domain is the email. Now, you must have seen that if you have to access any social media or any website or any portal, several times the portal asks you to feed your email address. And email address is a very important because email address is the latest address which all of you and us have. Now, there are two aspects. Yes. So there are two aspects. Number one is that in case we feed a email with a top level domain which is more than 3 characters. For example, instead of .com, which is 3 characters, and if you say .sharp or .academy, in case the portal or the email is not UA ready, then your system will reject that particular request with an error. So similarly, if you feed an email in non-English character, that also get rejected in case your website is not UA ready. So ICANN started delegating IDNs that is domain in local languages somewhere in 2010, 2011. And the whole community felt that it is important that we should now formally work as a focus group to work on the universal acceptance as a problem. And that is how the UASG, Universal Acceptance Strategic Group, was formed in 2015. And today we have a strong base of around 1,000 plus volunteers who are working in UASG to resolve this problem. Since last 8-9 years, USG has worked and tried to bring a lot of software which will make operating system, programming languages, websites UA ready. So all those efforts are available on USG Talk website, and anybody can download and utilize those resources to make their system UA ready. Coming to the Indian situation, as I said that India is more prominent because more number of people do not speak English. And we are fortunate that with the help of Government of India, we are able to get IDN languages in 22 languages which are available with us. I'm very happy to inform you that total domains which are delegated, around 3.6 lakh domains which are working today in India are in non-English speaking, or you can say IDN domains, out of which 2.61 are alone in Hindi. So a lot of efforts are being done by Government of India to ensure that people of India should be able to access the advantage of internet using their own languages. Now, coming to the second is that we have the second problem is the emails and websites. So Government of India has formed a group called UA Strategic Implementation Group. And I'm very happy to inform you that around 26 websites which are public facing from 26 central government departments are made UA ready. So it means that the process of making the websites and the interface between government and public has already started. And I'm very happy to inform you that in the UA implementation group, there are representative from NESCOM, representative from Microsoft, representative from Google. So it means that they are taking the things to the next level. So things are improving, but yeah, I think we have to take a long road to this. Since I'm talking at ISOC, I must inform you that within USG, we have taken two important decisions. Number one, we are now introducing a course university course on UA. The syllabus and content of the course are already developed, and we are slowly and maybe in the coming future going to introduce that particular course for the university level. And university, whoever is ready to volunteer them, they can take up this particular course, and we can also train the faculty wherever it is required. So this is first information which I wanted to share with you. And second is about the email. Now, lot of email providers, they want their email should be UA ready, but how to make it UA ready? So UASG has formed a self-testing of the email system, and there are procedures through which the whole system can be tested, and system will bring the result about the gaps which are available in the email about the UA, and also the remedial measure which are available. So I hope that with these efforts, the world is going to be more UA ready than what we are today. Finally, because the time allotted to me is very less, I just want to invite all of you who are listening my talk and who are part of this seminar to join us at international level and join on UA Discuss group so that you become part of the global community to take up the UA related issues, resolve it, and make this world internet friendly and world where each and every person on this globe should be able to access internet. Thank you very much, ISOC, for giving me this opportunity to talk to your members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anil Kumar Jain. It's been a very encouraging and very optimistic scenario in UA. We are very keen at ISOC Hyderabad to have a sustained working on UA. And actually, we have done lots of discussions on how to go with the government and the language commissions and the industry, like ONGC, IOC, like large companies. There's a huge scope for this universal acceptance to be implemented in those large companies. So, like RBI, SBI, and all this. So, I think we will work on it and we will get back to you. We will write to you about it, and so that what happens is our students will have enough projects on hand for them to work on it. So it will be very good win-win situation for us. So we will work on UA. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohan. Thank you.
Now I invite Mr. Samiran Gupta. He is the Vice President at ICANN, and he will talk to us about the ICANN in general and what they can do for us at ISOC. Mr. Samiran Gupta.
Thank you so much, Mohan. It's a pleasure joining you today and the members of ISOC Hyderabad. Thank you again for hosting this event today. And you know, very impressive to see such large number of students who have joined through the meeting rooms that have been set up at the academic centers in various universities. I will be very brief because I am the last speaker standing between you and the the awareness session on universal acceptance that my colleague Champika will take, and undoubtedly that is the main reason you're here. But just so that everybody is aware what ICANN does. So ICANN's role in the global internet is to coordinate the unique identifiers of the internet, which means the names, the domain names, and the IP addresses, names and numbers. And this is done, as you can imagine, there are millions of DNS resolutions taking place almost every second across the globe. How the system is kept working is a combination of both technology and also how the technology is managed in what we call the multi-stakeholder model of internet governance. So sorry, somebody's trying to reach me on the screen, so I'm just trying to continue over here. Okay. And, I recall, I remember Mohan inviting us to Hyderabad in 2021 when ISOC Hyderabad chapter was started. And since then, of course, we've had opportunity to collaborate on various programs. But I can say that we are looking at least 3 or 4 more new areas of joint activities. One of them will actually come out of today's awareness building session on universal acceptance. The next level from this would be in actually doing a workshop, which would train people in how to make their systems UA ready. So we would, await feedback from ISOC, Hyderabad chapter on what the interest would be to learn this, and we will, we'll work with, Universal Acceptance Steering Group, and we'll set up a process by which you can, participate in that program. The second area is DNS security, and I understand that ISOC Hyderabad has already done a awareness building session that was done with CDAC a few months ago. But at the next level, when there's a requirement for a workshop, we are very happy to, organize that. And another area where we could end up doing something with ISOC Hyderabad chapter is the next round of the new GTLD program, which will open in the second quarter of 2026. There's still time remaining for that, but awareness building conversations will start probably early next year, and I look forward to joining you again virtually or in person, Mohan, in talking more about that program. So without further ado, let me end here and clear the stage for Champika to take over and start the UA awareness training program. Mohan?
Okay. Thank you, Samiran. That was a very good overview of the possibilities with ICANN and ISOC. Thank you very much. We'll work systematically one by one. And now I invite Champika Wijayatunga. He's the senior manager, and we have got a lot of association with him in past events. He's an expert. I'm very happy that he's here with us today. Champika, please say a few words about yourself, because I have not gathered much. So, and then, thank you. Please,
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
yours.
Yeah. Thank you, Mohan. First of all, I would like to thank Mohan and also the ISOC Hyderabad chapter for inviting ICANN for this session, and also everyone who actually was part of organizing this session today. We should thank all of them for all their hard work. So you mentioned me to sort of talk a little bit about myself. So I, as you introduced, I work for ICANN, covering the Asia and the Pacific region, especially in the area of technical engagement. So when you think of the universal acceptance, that what we are talking, there are several technical aspects that we have to understand. So, but then there are, of course, quite a lot of other areas as well, especially covering the domain name system, the DNS security, DNSSEC. So there are many of these aspects as well that we we try to support our technical stakeholders in the Asia Pacific region. So that is my main focus. And in the past, I have been to India several times, conducting various workshops and things like that. Prior to ICANN days, I also used to work for APNIC, which is the Internet Registry for Asia Pacific region. So even from APNIC days, I've had a lot of associations with the community in India. So it's always a pleasure to be here and to work with you all. And it is also actually really a great pleasure to see the students and the other the people who are joining from various places today. And again, a big thanks for ISOC India Hyderabad chapter for organizing this event. Yeah, I hope this gives some sort of an introduction. And can I start my sort of session right away? Okay, great. So let me also try to share my slides. I have some slides that I've prepared to cover this session. So let me try to share that. Okay, do you see my slides clearly?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, and you can hear me clearly as well, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you. And so let us actually, now earlier, Mr. Jain also introduced about universal acceptance and the universal acceptance steering group of ICANN, what they're focusing on and their work that is being carried out. So definitely, if you visit the USG.tech, which is actually the Universal Acceptance Steering Group, you can find more information about this whole topic. So my objective today is to give some understanding of universal acceptance. So basically, what do you mean by this? And what are the things that we have to be aware in the context of universal acceptance? So that's the whole objective. And so let us try to actually start with, I want to give a very quick introduction to the domain name system first, because what we are discussing today is very much consistent or relevant to the DNS. Now, if there are people who are sort of new to DNS or having some basic understanding of DNS, I think it would be useful to sort of relate DNS and the universal acceptance later. So that is why I thought maybe I will discuss very quickly about the DNS. It's a very brief overview that I want to give. Now, domain name system, or simply we call DNS, is a hierarchical system, right? Even though you don't realize, every day we do quite a lot of DNS queries when we use our devices, mobile phones, laptops, when we do browsing, when we use our mobile apps and things like that, when we send emails, we use DNS behind the scene. So this is why the domain name system is very important. Now, if you take DNS or the domain name system, as I said, it's a hierarchical system or a database. It's a distributed database. So you can see the hierarchy here. Top of this hierarchy is actually what we call the root. So you can see top of this hierarchy, it is called the root. And then root has got delegations. So delegations means giving part of its responsibility to other parties, right? That's what we call delegation. So you can see that there are delegations from root to things called top-level domains. Now, earlier also Mr. Jain mentioned that currently there are over 1,500 top-level domains exist in the world. very early days when the internet started, going back to history, say early 1980s, even before that actually, right? 1970s or so. But if you speak of the DNS or the domain name system, it started around in early 1980s. The first very few RFCs were written back in 1983. So we are talking about 40 plus years, right? History. So very early days, there were some top level domains, but it was very limited, only like 7 top level domains. Things like .com, .net. .com was meant to be for commercial entities. .net was meant to be for network operators, networks. And then .edu for educational institutes, like this. There was a purpose for that. So there were these very limited number of top-level domains. And then later, when the internet got globalized, or sort of, everything was initially started in the United States, but then later the network expanded to other countries and so on. We are talking about the internet. And then we saw delegations called country code top-level domains, or CCTLDs. So country code top-level domains, they are simply called CCTLDs. Say, for example, every country is given a 2-letter country code, right? Every country is given a 2-letter code. For example, India is given .in, or say Singapore is given .sg. Australia is given .au, and so on, right? So every country has a 2-letter country code. This is an ISO standard, right? It's an international standard. And so it's a 2-character code. So these characters, these delegations are called country code top-level domains. And so we can see those as top-level domains as well. This is why I'm showing you as an example .in. So earlier I was talking about these legacy ones like .com, .net, edu, and so on, right? And then this also got expanded further. Very early days, it was 3 characters, like com was 3 character, edu was 3 character, net was 3 character, and so on. But later, like after year 2000 or so, these restrictions sort of were taken out, and then we saw some longer top-level domains came, like .travel or .info and things like that. And in more recent times, about sort of 10 years ago or so, there were new generic top-level domains, right? New generic top-level domains were distributed. So organizations, different entities, countries, and so on, they could apply for their own TLDs. So this is why, as an example, I'm showing you here like .coffee. Say, in India, there are several examples. Say, for example, the State Bank of India, they have their own TLD, right? And so on. So if you add those ones, and also another one thing that you can see in this picture, there is something that starts with XN hyphen, so this doesn't really make much sense here, but it is an ASCII ASCII string, as you can see, right? All these characters are ASCII characters. But in actual fact, this is what we call an IDN. IDN stands for Internationalized Domain Names. So I was talking about, a little bit of history about the internet back in 1980s when the DNS protocol was developed. So if you study the details of, how the DNS protocol works, all the queries, they go as ASCII, right? So we have to actually, if you have to do the DNS queries, that has to be resolved in ASCII strings. But the thing is that nowadays, with the time, we have the big requirement of having our domain names not only in ASCII characters, or say, for that matter, English characters. We also want to have the domain names in different other scripts. Say, for example, in India, Devanagari scripts, or Tamil scripts, or Telugu scripts, and so on, right? So these are not ASCII scripts. These are different other scripts. But the problem, I mean, there were several problems in relation to this. We can discuss those later. But we should be able to have domain names in our own scripts as well. So what you see here in this picture with this XN, with the ASCII code, it is actually a conversion of a internationalized domain name in another script, right? But it has been converted to an ASCII scripts. So when the DNS resolution happens, the resolution happens based on the ASCII string, right? So that's what is being shown here. Now, so I was kind of trying to give you this overview here. So in the DNS, we have the top of the hierarchy, we have the root. Root has made delegations to all these top-level domains. Now, when you add all these top-level domains, there are over 1,500, as I said before. And so this is increasing. And there will be some future, possibilities that organizations, entities, and so on, they can also apply for more when the application process starts. They can apply for more of these generic top-level domains, even using your own scripts, right? And then if you take one of these top-level domains, you can make further delegations. So in this example, you can see that .com has made delegations, foo or ba or example, like that. And then the hierarchy goes all the way down, right? So as I said, DNS is a hierarchical system. So you can see the hierarchy. If you simply take a domain name, say in this case, www.example.com, if you write it as a complete domain name, we call it as a fully qualified domain name, you can see a dot in the end. So this is what we call a trailing dot. If you observe it properly, after .com, there is a dot, right? Obviously, we don't type this dot in the browser, but in the configurations, if you go into DNS configurations, you will see this dot, which represents the root, right? Because root is the top of the hierarchy. And then from the root, we have delegations for .com, and .com has delegated to another level, example.com, and then you have some records or some hosts inside this particular domain, example.com, which is in this case, in this example, it's www, right? So this is the hierarchy that we are talking. So I think I just try to brief the whole domain name system in a very quick way. So the important things, what you need to understand here is that it's a hierarchical system. It's a hierarchical database. We can do delegations, right? Now I'm going into next slide just to show you how the DNS queries happen. It is important to note what sort of components are there in this query process. So first of all, we have a client, say, for example, ourselves. We could be having our own devices like the mobile phone or laptop, as I said before. And then we also have some application, right? So this application could be a browser or any mobile app or anything like that, right? And then we also have the operating system in the device. So we have something called a stub resolver running in the device, in the operating system. And then that will do API calls with the application. So if you want to say, example, if you want to browse something, so browse a website, you would type the website, and then the query, obviously, the client device if it has to download the web page from that particular web server, it has to know the IP address of the web server, right? It should know the IP address of the web server. So this is how it finds the IP address. The query goes to what we call a recursive resolver. Typically, this recursive resolver is managed by your internet service provider or mobile provider, right? Or it could be a public DNS resolver service provider. Whoever providing this DNS resolution service, they will manage this recursive resolver. Sometimes we call this as recursive servers in the DNS terminology. Sometimes we also call this as caching name servers. So the query goes from the client device to the recursive resolver, and then recursive resolver would query many other DNS servers scattered around different networks. These servers are called authoritative name servers, right? As the name sounds, you can see that it's authoritative. That means it is authorized for that particular data. If you want anything about the root zone, that means what is in the root database, we have an authoritative server called root server. There are several root servers scattered around the globe again. So it could contact the optimal one, which is pretty much close to the recursive resolver for best DNS performance. And then root has, as I said, root would delegate zones to top-level domains, the next level. And then they also run their authoritative servers. So if I take an example as, say, nick.in, or say nick.in, for example, we have the root. Root has delegated in, right, .in. And then the query would go into .in servers. And then .in would respond with the IP addresses of the nick.in servers, DNS servers, right? These are all authoritative name servers. And then the recursive resolver could go and talk to the nick.in nick.in authoritative server and get the data, appropriate data, say the website of nick.in. So the IP address related to the web server of nick.in, which is www.nic.in. We get that IP address, and then that gets into the cache of the recursive resolver. And then this answer is sent back to the client who asked that question, give me the IP address of www.nick.in. So that's how the client gets the IP address. So that once the client gets the IP address, the client can directly talk or communicate with the web server and download the web page, right? So this is simply how the DNS queries get resolved. So the important things what you have to understand here is that we have the clients send the queries to recursive resolvers or caching name servers, which would go and talk to several authoritative servers based on the DNS hierarchy. In the DNS hierarchy, we discussed about the root, the top-level domains, the second-level domains, and so on, right? The hierarchical view. So the queries would go from one level to the other level, to the next level, and so on. And finally, the answer can be received by the recursive resolver, and then that answer will be given to the client. Now, these answers are kept in the cache for better DNS performance, because once the answer is in the cache, then next, if the same answer is requested by the client, the recursive resolver doesn't need to go and talk to many other DNS servers, right? Because its answer is already in the cache, it can straight away respond. So I'm just checking, actually, I have a raise of hand, so I think probably I'm not sure whether I got a message that someone raised a hand, so that's why I just was wondering whether you can hear me properly. I guess you can hear me properly, right? Mohan?
Yes, we hear you fine. Ignore
Yes,
that.
yes,
All right.
we can hear.
Yeah,
We can hear. Not
is
a
it
problem.
over?
Yeah, so I was just wondering because there was a message. That's why I was wondering whether people can hear me.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, you're audible. I think there is some more also to present.
If people have
Yeah, that's fine.
questions, could they put them in the chat, please?
Okay, questions we can take at the end.
Yeah, we can take it at the end. So
Yeah.
we'll have a separate time for Q&A.
Correct. Please continue.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, so I was talking about the DNS query resolution process. And now let's go into actually more of, because our objective here is not to talk about too much of DNS stuff, but to discuss about the universal acceptance. But without DNS, of course, there's no point of talking about universal acceptance. So that is why I want to give you some highlight of the domain name system. Now, let's take a domain name here, right? So you can see that in this slide, we have an example of an ASCII domain, right? Remember, I was talking about ASCII. So all these characters, what you see here are ASCII characters. So www.cafe-123.com. Now, based on the hierarchy that what we discussed earlier, based on the hierarchy that we discussed earlier, we have .com as the top level domain, right? .com as the top level domain. And then cafe-123, that is the second level domain because .com has made a delegation to cafe-123. And then we have www, that's the third level domain. So this is based on that exact hierarchy. Now, there are certain rules or guidelines when naming or when actually before giving this naming convention. Now, one of the very important guideline is that for top level domains, we can only have letters, right? For top level domains, we can only have letters. So if you consider this .com part, that can consist of only letters, which means from A to Z. Okay. And the label's length has to be 63 characters. So you can have any letter from A to Z. You cannot have numbers here, right? So you cannot have digits in the top level domain area. Okay. And then if you consider the second level domains, in this case, cafe-123, we can have letters, digits, and hyphen. So when I say letters, that means A to Z. And then when I say digits, that's 0 to 9, and then the hyphen. So all those character combinations can make this second level domain. Okay. So cafe-123 is an example of that. And then similarly, the third level is also the same thing, right? So I think it's enough for us to cover the second level and the top level because that's where the main difference is. So for second levels, letters, digits, and the hyphen. So we call this as LDH rule, right? So usually LDH rule means we can have letters, digits, and hyphen. And again, the label length should be 63 characters. So moving forward, now very early days, going back to the early days, we use this scheme called ASCII. So this is ASCII is an encoding scheme or a standard, right? Which was used many, many years ago. Okay. Now what you see here is the ASCII table. So we try to put all these ASCII characters into a table. so that we know exactly what characters we are using. So if you take a simple, English keyboard, this is what you see, right? So you will see these key sequences. Now, for top-level domains, out of these keys or out of these characters, the ASCII characters, we can only use the ones with this green outline. I said for top-level domains, we can only use the letters. So, which means the capital letters, the simple letters, right? So these are the ones we can use for top-level domains. We cannot use numbers and so on, right? We cannot use the numerics, the digits, and so on, the other characters. So for top-level domains in the ASCII table, that's what we use. And for second levels, we use the letters, which is highlighted in the, the outline in green. And then we also have digits, 0 to 9, outlined in blue. And then we have hyphen, which is here outlined in red. So if you are talking about a second level domain, the rule is that we only use letters, digits, and hyphen. We cannot use other characters. In the keyboard, you will see, the dollar sign or the percentage sign or, all these other signs, right? But we cannot use those in the domain names. Now, I said that this is the ASCII table, but the, different combination is given for some sort of character, okay? So in the ASCII scheme, you can see that the table is full, right? This is all, you can see that every space is given to a certain character. So the table is full, right? So if you want to say, define any other character other than this English character, say for example, okay, say if you want to include any Devanagari character, or if you want to include any Telugu character, there is no space here. We cannot put that into the ASCII table. So we need another encoding scheme for that. Okay, so ASCII encoding scheme will not help us having our own scripts, right? If we want to have our own scripts, then we have to actually go for any other encoding schemes. So this is where later there were several schemes were proposed, several encoding schemes were proposed, and this is where we have to actually understand about the Unicode transformation format, right? Or the that's another encoding scheme. Now I'm showing you another example. Now earlier I was showing you the example of a domain name in ASCII or in English, but this time I'm showing you an domain name example in Devanagari characters, right? So you can see this, right? You can see this domain, this example, right? In .bharat, right? So this is actually say sarkar.in, right? Which is the gov.in. Okay, so in this case, you can see the top level domain and then the second level domain. Now, the same sort of rules will apply here. Earlier, I was explaining about the rules. Now, these are called internationalized domain names, right? These labels are called internationalized domain names, or simply we call those as IDNs, IDN, right? Again, in this top level domain, even though it is in Devanagari characters, we cannot use numbers here, right? The same rules apply. We cannot use digits and so on in the top level domain. But second levels, we can, right? Now, for IDNs, there is a standard because, for all these things, there are certain standard documents, right? So these technical standards are developed by the Internet Engineering Task Force, or IETF. So IETF has developed several standards. If you take DNS, even in, it's a standard, right? these standards gets up to date time to time, right? And then in the same way, back in 2003, year 2003, there was a standard came for internationalized domain names in applications. So that was called IDNA 2003. But then that got updated in 2008. So the standard we follow for internationalized domain names is what we call IDNA 2008 standard. So if you are referring, or even if you are a developer or developing any applications that can cater for local language scripts, then you have to follow this IDNA 2008 standard, right? IDNA means internationalized domain names in applications, right? And those rules which I mentioned, they follow. And then further, we should also actually follow the IDNA 2008 standard. Okay, now earlier I was showing you the ASCII table. Now this is the similar sort of table for Devanagari scripts, right? So you can see that obviously, like similar to the ASCII table, we also have this Unicode table. This is a Unicode table. And then we can have certain space for the different characters in your script, right? So just like the ASCII table before, now this is the Unicode table, okay? You can also observe that there are certain code, these are called code points given, right? So you can see that here there is 000, zero, there are some certain codes given, right? So you can actually interpret any of these characters using these codes or code points. Now, so let us try to understand about the Unicode, because understanding about universal acceptance, it is very important to understand about the Unicode as well. Earlier, I mentioned to you about the ASCII scheme, right? ASCII scheme. So ASCII scheme was used quite long ago, but we can only have, with ASCII, we could only have the English characters, right? So we can have English domain names, we can type English domain names and so on. But if we want to have other scripts, ASCII, I showed you that ASCII is not enough. We have to go into a different encoding scheme. This is where we go for Unicode, right? So in Unicode, what we do is we encode glyphs into code points. What do you mean by a glyph? Glyph is actually a character. So in the previous diagram, I showed you the Devanagari characters, and all those Devanagari character can, it is a glyph, right? It is some way of writing something. It is a glyph. And then that glyph can be represented using a certain code point, right? That's what I was showing you before. There are certain points that can be interpreted to a certain character. Say in this case, if you take the letter B, right? Ba, right? That has the code point 092D. So let us go back to the Unicode table. So 092D is this, right? So this is where the letter B, right, in Bharat, the letter B is represented here. So B gets the code point 092D, right? So that's how you interpret the code point. Okay, so in the same way, all those different glyphs in your script, say in Devanagari or in Telugu or whatever, right? So for every script, there is a certain code point representation is given, right? Now, this is shown in hexadecimal notation. So usually to represent the hexadecimals, we show U plus, right? So when you see this U plus, that means, the Unicode representation in hexadecimals. And then the hexadecimal notation. So the 092D is all hex values, okay? It's all hex values. And so that's how the representation is. And I was referring to you earlier about this UTF. UTF stands for Unicode Transformation Format. So this is simply another encoding scheme, something other than ASCII, right? There were several encoding schemes. You can see, like, if you go and study about encoding schemes, there are many other encoding schemes as well. But for us, the most optimum one is UTF-8. So 8 is actually, it's 8 bits. You can also see UTF-16, UTF-32, and so on. But the problem is, say, for example, if you use UTF-32, that means if you want to store a certain character, say to store this letter B, right? If you want to store this letter B, or if you want to transmit this letter B, we have to allocate 32 bits, which means like 4 bytes. So if you can do that in 8 bits, why do we need to use 32 bits, right? It's a waste of storage. So that is why we don't really use UTF-32 in this case. The most optimum one is UTF-8 for us, right? We can store that in 8 bits, 8-bit chunks, basically, right? The other advantage using UTF-8 is the backward compatibility with ASCII, right? Because in the ASCII, because if you use UTF-8, we can use the ASCII representations, ASCII code points, as it is, right? So that's also another advantage. So backward compatibility is there if you use UTF-8. So that is why nowadays, if you consider, UTF-8 is considered as the gold standard for various applications that we use in web, protocols, and all that, right? So in the internet, when we find, we use, even in mail and things like that, we use UTF-8 as the main standard, carrying the Unicode code points. So if you want to carry any Unicode code points, we should use UTF-8 as the encoding standard, okay? All right, so I think you have got some idea about the UTF, or the Unicode Transformation Format. Why do we need it, right? Because ASCII, we cannot only survive with ASCII if we want to use local language scripts or characters. ASCII can do only if it is English or Latin characters, basically, right? But if you go beyond that, if you want to use Devanagari, or if you want to use Telugu or Tamil or anything, right? You have to go beyond ASCII. That is where we use UTF, or the Unicode Transformation Format, right? That's another encoding scheme. I think I have explained this during my first slide, how the DNS got expanded over the time. I said that, early days, we only had 3-character generic top-level domains, and then we had more than 3-character ones, and then we also had the IDN CCTLD. Say, for example, India was delegated with .bharat, right? .bharat in many different scripts. So if you currently see the delegations for .in, or basically to NIXI, the Indian government, there are basically several scripts, several delegations made from the root in different scripts, but all those scripts pronounced as .bharat, right? And then also after like 2013, I also mentioned to you about the new generic top-level domains like .sky or .bank or .global, .cities. I gave you an example like .sbi, the State Bank of India, and so on, right? So this is how the expansion of DNS has happened over the years. From the beginning, of course, the country code top-level domains also have been delegated to different countries in the world. Currently, there are over 300 plus country code top-level domains have been delegated from the root. So altogether, if you add everything, there are over 1,500 top-level domains have been delegated, right? Now, why I'm trying to say all these is that when it comes to universal acceptance, we have to make sure that all those type of top-level domains, shown here, are being recognized by the application. Because some applications, if you don't, they only recognize if it's .com only, right? Say you're going to register for an event. It asks for your email ID. Okay, so if your email ID is having something like example.sky or example.global, then I'm talking about the right-hand side of the @ sign, right? The domain part. So if it has example.global and the registration form doesn't accept that, that means it's a problem, right? It's an error. So this is where we have to fix that. So this is why I'm telling you that all those domains, different type of domains, whether it's .bharat or .bank or anything, right, which is being delegated, has to be recognized by the application. So the application developers, they should follow, when they develop their software, they should follow that standard I said before, the IDNA 2008 standard. And also the TLD list, because these TLD lists can change all the time. So the TLD list should be obtained using the IANA TLD list. So IANA stands for Internet Assigned Names, Internet Assigned Numbers Authority, right? IANA, which is actually a function within ICANN. And IANA maintains a top-level domain list, right? Because tomorrow one top-level domain can go off, right? Or another new one can come tomorrow. So this is why we should always, as developers, we should always consider the IANA list when you want to pass something, right? Okay. So this is sort of, the current situation in the world, especially talking about the IDNs, the internationalized domain names. You can see that currently 62 CCTLD country delegations made for 43 countries, basically, right? Why there are more delegations? Because some countries have more delegations, like in India. So in India, it's .bharat, but in so many different scripts, right? So that's why similarly, some other countries, they have different languages or different scripts used in that country. So they have requested for multiple IDN CCTLD domains, right? So those countries are given multiples of those. I mean, the best example is India, of course, right? Because so many different scripts are delegated to India because there are many languages in India. Okay, so let us now, I think the point is clear. We are trying to understand what is universal acceptance, okay? And so we have to make sure all domain names and email addresses should work in all software applications. That is the important thing. We have to make sure that, say this kind of domain, right? If it is a Devanagari domain, or if it's a Chinese domain, or if it's a, whatever, like local language scripts is recognized in the Unicode transformation format, that has to be, that the software should recognize that, Okay, and then similarly, the new GTLDs. It is, we should not only pass .coms or .net or .edu. It could be .example, it could be .sbi, or it could be anything that is being delegated by the root. Similarly, the internationalized email addresses. The email addresses also can be in different scripts. So not only in English, you should be able to have your email ID in Telugu or in Tamil or in Devanagari scripts and so on. Okay. So the key principles in this case, if you are to say that your applications, your software is UA ready, or your systems are UA ready, that means it has to support all those important conditions. First thing is, it should be able to accept it. Going back to the example I said before, if you're having a registration form, and if someone want to give the say Telugu email address, application form should accept it. If it doesn't accept Telugu email address, then we can't say it's UA ready, right? It is not ready. And similarly, it should be able to validate it. Okay. So going through all those passing requirements and should be able to validate it. And then storing. If the email IDs are stored in a database, for example, right? The database should support it. If the database gives an error saying that, oh, this is an invalid email ID, that's not going to help. Okay, so the storage part, the storing also has to be satisfied. Then the processing, right? Processing also has to be happen. And then displaying. Say in a browser, if you type a Devanagari script or say a Telugu domain, then browser should display it properly, okay, in correct characters. So all those things has to actually be fulfilled or satisfied if you are to say that your applications, your softwares are UA ready. Okay, UA stands for universal acceptance. So I hope now the terminology is clear to you, universal acceptance. So if you are saying UA ready, that means, say, these are some few examples that I'm showing. If you type, say, soap.organic, right? Soap.organic, we should get to that website. If you get an errors, if your application cannot process it, if your browser cannot display it properly, get the web page, that means not ready, right? If you are UA ready, that means your browser should be able to show the web page, soap.organic, because you can see that organic is a new generic top-level domain. It's not a traditional legacy type TLD. It's not like .com or .net or .edu and so on. So this is a new one delegated by IANA. Okay. And similarly, if you type, say, in this case, Tokyo there is a top-level domain written in Japanese characters. Still, the website should be able to display it properly, show it properly. Now, in this case, the TLD is an IDN TLD, right? Internationalized domain name. So still, the application should be able to process that. If it is not processing, if you're not getting a proper display, that means you're not ready. Similarly, if the website has got some email ID, right? You can see that this email ID is in different Chinese characters. So if it is not validated, if it is validated, it's all fine. If it is not validated, if it is giving some error saying that it's not a valid email ID, then you are not UA ready. So these are a few examples how the UA readiness can be seen. Now let us try to understand how the IDNs are processed. If you remember, I was going through the DNS resolution DNS resolution process earlier, right? The query goes from the client to the recursive resolver, and then the recursive resolver would go and talk to the root servers, top-level domains, next-level authoritative servers, and so on, right? So from that perspective, now earlier I was giving you a ASCII domain example, okay? But now we are talking about a domain name in Devanagari scripts. So this is actually nic.bharat. So if you type nic.bharat, right, in your browser, first of all, it should be able to accept it. Remember, if it is universal acceptance ready, your browser should be able to accept it. And then browser has to actually process this. There is something called normalization, which should happen. So normalization is sometimes in some keyboards, some character can be given using multiple key sequences, right? So whether you give a single key sequence or multiple key sequence, the input has to be same. So this is all, this is what we call, normalization. So the software will do that. And then the browser, it has to, remember I told you before, DNS doesn't understand, in this case, the Devanagari characters, okay? The DNS, domain name resolution, doesn't understand Devanagari characters. Domain name resolution happens based on ASCII characters. So we have to make sure these Devanagari characters need to be converted to an ASCII code. So the Devanagari characters need to be converted to an ASCII code, ASCII compatible representation, basically. Now this code is called a puny code, right? So if you heard this term, puny code, now this is also a standard, Internet Engineering Task Force, IETF. There is IETF standard on this. If you refer to RFC 3492, that's a standard, right? So whatever you type here in this case, this is in Devanagari characters. This, if you want to get the DNS resolution of that, DNS needs ASCII code, and then it has to be converted to an sort of a what we call a puny code, right? So this nic.bharat becomes this string. I have actually tried to put two different colors. Red is the top level, and then blue is the second level. So this second level, NIC, gets converted to XN-M1, this string. So the ASCII code relates to the NIC in Devanagari is this. And the ASCII code in relation to the .bharat is this, XN-H2BR, that one. So now you can see, there are, of course, tools available if you want to do this conversion. There are tools available to convert from these are called U labels because these are universal Unicode-based labels, right? So that's why we call those as U labels. So if you want to convert U labels to an ASCII label, or simply we call as A labels, right? If you want to convert U labels into A labels, you can use those tools. So this is what we have done here. Now, of course, the browser will do this, right? And so this will be converted to an ASCII code, which becomes this. And then now this can be given to the DNS resolution, because DNS servers can understand this, okay? Because this is an ASCII code. So when you think of the query that goes into the recursive resolver, it is this ASCII string, right? Because that's the IP address what we need. And then it's a normal DNS. After that, it's a normal DNS resolution, okay? And then the query would go into root. Root would direct into .bharat servers. .bharat servers would direct that into the nic.bharat servers, and then nic.bharat servers will return the IP address, right? And once the IP address is returned, the client can then get to this domain, right? So that's how the resolution process of the internationalized domain names, right? Okay. Moving forward, now let's get to discuss about the email IDs as well. Now, earlier I was talking about the domain names. There are different domain names, the new generic top-level domains. There are some longer top-level generic domains. So all those things has to be supported by the software, right? That is when we can say that universal acceptance ready. And similarly, internationalized domain names, just like we said before, you can see that here the example domain, udaharan.bharat, right? So, and then I have shown you some different email ID formats as well, because in an email ID, we can have two parts. One is the mailbox, which is before the @sign, @sign, and then the domain, which is after the @sign. Okay. So now when you have usually when we have email IDs, it is all in ASCII characters in English, say, for example, right? But we should be able to have email IDs in different formats. Like, for example, this one. I have my name here, right? Champika the domain is not in English. So this part is not in English. So this part is the example, right? udaharan.org. Okay. And then similarly, this is another type of email ID. This is champika@example.com. So in this case, the mailbox is in Unicode format, but the domain is in ASCII format. And this is another way. Both mailbox and the domain, they're all in Unicode, U labels. Okay. Champika@udaharan.bharat, right? And then also you can have some email IDs, because usually in all these email IDs, when we write these email IDs, we write from left to right. But there are some scripts that we write from right to left. Say, for example, like Arabic. In Arabic, we write from right to left. So this part will be the domain and this part will be the mailbox. So even that has to be recognized by the software, right? If it is not being recognized, then it is not UA ready. Okay. So I hope now you understand when it comes to email IDs, what needs to be recognized as well, what needs to be accepted, validated, processed, and stored, and then, of course, display properly. Okay. So if we can do all those things, then we can say that universal acceptance ready. I also want to actually, before I end the session, want to actually show you some numbers. Now, ICANN has got sort of contracts with the top-level domain, generic top-level domain operators, okay, contracted parties. So we have looked, in the recent times, we have looked about over 1,000 top-level domain zones. I'm not talking about country code top-level domains here, because country code top-level domains, they don't have, they are not contracted parties of ICANN. So I'm talking about generic top-level domains and the new generic ones. So out of about 1,180 top-level domain zones, that includes about 210 million second-level domains. So if you consider these 1,000 something top-level domains, they have around 210 million second-level domains. And then these top-level domains consist of, out of these domains, we have measured basically around 34 million mail servers. Okay. Out of these 32 million mail servers, they also run on 2 million or so unique IP addresses. Okay. So these are, the samples that we have used. And out of these, when we test for internationalized email addresses, the things what I just mentioned earlier, 32% of the DNS servers, when you send an email, they did not respond. So we can't exactly say why they didn't respond, whether, what sort of, due to what sort of problem that they did not respond. But we know that 60% did not support internationalized email address. So out of those 34 million mail servers, 60% did not support internationalized email address. That means most of those mail servers, they could not understand Devanagari email addresses, say for example. Okay, they could only understand English email IDs. We also measured 7% were set up to accept and internationalize email addresses. So these mail server operators, they are doing a good job. They have configured their mail servers in such a way that they could understand internationalized email addresses, right? That means I can send email using my local language email ID. You should be able to send an email to any of these 7% of these mail servers using your Devanagari email IDs. So you can see the current situation here, right? Only about 7% of the mail servers in the world today do accept internationalized email IDs. So what our objective has to be then to increase these figures, right? These 7% has to be increased. Obviously, this has to be dropped, right? This has to be dropped. These 32%, we can't really say what was the error. They haven't responded, basically. But our objective should be to increase this green figure and decrease this red figure, okay? So that more mail servers can be supported to accept international email IDs. Now, with the internationalized email ID implementation part, here directly we are referring to the mail softwares, right? Mail, different tools and softwares and so on. Some of the, if the particular tool or the software doesn't have EAI support, EAI means email address internationalization. So if they don't have email ID support or email address internationalization support, that means they can only accept ASCII email addresses, right? Which is not really good, because then if we have our Devanagari email address or Telugu email address, we cannot send emails, right? So when we select any software or email software, we should be able to actually get something that has got EAI support. Now, even with the EAI support, there are different levels. Some software can receive emails from EAI addresses. Some can send emails to EAI addresses, so that is fine. But they cannot create mailboxes and domain names in UTF-8. So there are number of mail server softwares. You can send emails, right? You can send emails, you can receive emails, but if you want to create a mailbox, say if you want to create your own email mailbox, then it doesn't allow. The next level is level 2 support, which means everything is pretty good. You can not only receive emails, you can not only send emails to other EAI addresses, but also you can create mailboxes and domain names in UTF-8, right? So if you are going to actually, select some mail server software, think about, maybe at least to have some level 1 or level 2 support mail server software. Again, when you think of mail delivery, there are different components, right? There are mail user agents, because some mail server software offers mail user agent, some offers mail submission agents or mail transfer agents. So there are different components. Some software would support EAI in their mail transfer agents. So that means when that mail gets transferred from one mail server to the other mail server, there is EAI support or the UTF-8 support. If you don't have UTF-8 support, then we cannot send an Devanagari email to, or we can't send an email from a Devanagari address to another Devanagari address. Okay. Yeah, so these are a few things that you need to be aware, especially with the software. And finally, just want to say that so there is quite a lot of work going on. Earlier, Mr. Jain also mentioned that there is this universal acceptance steering group. ICANN is also doing quite a lot of work with the community, and the whole idea here is that in the future, right, we expect a lot of growth in this universal acceptance. So which means internationalized domain names, more people can get online, basically, because there are, if you take the populations, everyone, there are so many people out there who do not work in English or, use English. So they should be able to use their own English email, local language email IDs or local language domains. So this is where we have quite a lot of opportunities that we expect to see, and that would mean the revenue growth is also quite high in this area, right? So these are some research that is being carried out, some potentials. You can see some quite a lot of big potentials in financial figures, the expectations in this area that, the opportunities wise. So I think it is good that if we put some effort into this area and then try to understand, try to actually, contribute to these efforts that we are carrying out. If you want to know more about these things, you can visit the UASG.tech website. You can see this is also a new generic top-level domain, the .tech, right? So there are a lot of resources around here. And then there are some mailing lists that you can join, you can subscribe to, and then there are lots of working groups. Mr. Jain also mentioned about this as well, different working groups, universal acceptance working group they have. If someone is more interested about emails, they can join the email address working group. If more people are interested about, say, the IDNs, there are different other working groups and so on, right? So you can join those specific working groups as well. I think this would end my presentation. And if you have any further discussions on these contents, we can have now, or I'm happy to actually, you can contact me on this address, and then I can reply you. Over to you, Mr. Mohan.
Thank you, Champika. The audience, the participants can now ask questions in chat mode or Q&A mode. Champika will reply to them.
Yeah, so Champika, I have one question here. So when we were talking about the universal acceptance and the adoptability of the universal acceptance, so how we can see that it is getting adopted inside the industry or inside the public service? So how it is getting adopted percentage-wise, if you can throw some kind of information about that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. Actually, if you go to that USG.tech website, there are a lot of surveys you can see that they have conducted. Say, for example, they have checked, say, the global 1,000 top websites, say, for example, right? And then out of those top 1,000 websites, which websites are UA ready, right? So I'm giving you some examples. So when they check the top 1,000 websites, it's around 10% or so, right? And I also showed you the stats related to the email IDs, acceptance of that. That's around 7% of the mail servers. So these figures at the moment are quite low in terms of percentage, right? Even if you say 10% or 7%, we still have far away to go. If you want to know more about those surveys, these surveys include, quite a lot of other statistics as well, other measurements. So you can go to usg.tech website, and there are several documentation. So in general, to answer your question, if you go back to 5 years ago or now, there is a big improvement, especially like in India. There is a lot of work going on, and also a lot of awareness sessions, and even, Mr. Jain also mentioned about that as well. Even the population-wise, more people have joined these efforts in India and so on. So we see there is definitely a very good improvement in the last few years. So we would expect in the next few years to come, these figures also will go quite high as well, more than what we see now, and in terms of the growth. So I hope that, the adaptability from that perspective. I think probably Samiran can also give some examples here, especially because in some state, I think in Rajasthan, especially, there have been a lot of, I think the government maybe I think I should probably get Samiran to talk about it. Samiran, are you there?
Sure. Yeah, I'm here. So
probably you can enlighten people.
Yeah. Couple of examples. So firstly, the government of Rajasthan provided every citizen who registered for the service a free Devanagari email ID. And on that email ID, they would send, or they continue to send, important notifications from the state. Another example I wanted to share is this is work in progress, but India has, around 600,000 villages. And there is a Ministry of Culture project which has just started maybe about 6-8 months or maybe a year ago, where every village is getting a web page which will be available with a .in address and a .bharat address of their choice. So they will be getting a IDN address as well as a ASCII address. Now, this is something, once even 25-30% of this project is done, there'll be a lot to see. And of course, as Mr. Jain mentioned, 26 external facing websites of the government of India are now UA ready. I understand that program is still ongoing. More will be UA ready. So it's a matter of time. I would imagine that perhaps the private sector jumps in and starts making their digital profile UA ready. Champika?
Yep. So I think that explains that helps your question. I mean, for you to understand the growth and the numbers and the figures and so on. But if you want to have some very specific measurements, I would say there are some white papers in the usg.tech website. You can find more details about this very specific details.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's the answer. Thanks for the answer.
Thank you, Champika. Technology-wise, social responsibility-wise, and revenue-wise, there's a huge potentiality in this UA concept. So I think we should focus on this and then have a working group on this. I think we will do it soon. Now I invite Rajiv Ranjan to give a closing remarks. Rajiv?
Hi, hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. First, I like to thanks all the stakeholder here who had joined for this webinar, and it is really very informative. I found that it is not only for the working professional, but also it is very knowledge sharing session for students as well. So this webinar started with Mohan Raidu, who is the president of our ISOC Hyderabad, and he has highlighted mainly about our collaboration with multiple organizations to improve efficiency of this kind of a webinar. Like we have done collaboration with CDAC, and recently we conducted also one seminar in Microsoft. We are also having a collaborations with government of Telangana, and we are working for that to increase the presence of ISOC in artificial intelligence field as well, because Telangana government is planning to start one summit or host a summit on sometime in July. So that kind of a collaborations our Hyderabad chapter is doing. That will give the benefit to students as well as the working professional. I thanks to Dr. Anil Kumar Agrawal, who has given very good insight about government initiative. He was talking about our India government is getting ready with multiple websites. He has given some number also, 26 websites are getting ready with the UA ready. I think this is a phenomenal achievement for India government. And he has shared a lot of information about Global UI Day, right? Like it is getting celebrated from 1st March to 31st of May to make everyone aware about universal acceptance. And Dr. Simran, who has given a good insight about our UI acceptance and how state government are driving this UI acceptance to the village level. So his information about village level initiative is very informative, and he was talking about how 600K villages are getting a website, and how government of Rajasthan is trying to drive this universal acceptance. This is a very informative things, but not that much is relevant for us to understand. Probably, I think we may need multiple such kind of a webinar. I thanks to Dr. Champika, who has given, I think, very, very good insight about how this UA works. And he was talking about how the UA will be helping India, especially the India, where we have a multiple kind of a language. Like he was mainly talking about the Telugu language, and we are having a Hindi language, Devanagari Lipi. So, and how the current situation is. For example, he was talking about only 7% email servers are ready to accept the UA kind of a email IDs. So, for example, if we're having a email IDs in Telugu, only 7% of the servers are currently ready to accept it. So we have to improve it to the much higher level, because around 60 to 70% servers are not internationally ready to accept the UA level of the technology. So we have to improve, and it is also giving a one kind of a very good insight for the business also, that when such kind of opportunity is coming, business domain will also increase. The reason that this is going to create multiple kind of opportunity for the students who is passing out from the colleges. So it is not only creating a awareness, but it is also creating a multiple opportunity for a student to learn such technology and get ready for such kind of a challenges to solve. So thanks, Dr. Champika. You have really given very good insight about DNS resolutions and how UA will be changing when the DNS resolution will get ready with the UA acceptance. So thank you for that, and thanks for your time. And once again, I thanks on behalf of ISOC Hyderabad for coming and giving such kind of a valuable insight to us. And it is really very useful. And we hope that such kind of a webinar will be conducted by you multiple times for this ISOC Hyderabad chapter. So thank you for that. And with that, I say that, okay, this is a really good insight for everyone. And probably we can close this session with good remarks and good understanding from everyone.
Thank you,
So
Raidu.
handing over to you.
We must
Thank you.
thank Jolly of ISOC. Right from beginning, he has extended very good support for us. But for his interest and support, this wouldn't have happened. He has developed a flyer, he has developed a form, a registration form, and there were restrictions for registrations. It has shot up to 750. We were thinking around 200, but then there were restrictions for the registrations. He has consistently increased the limit and taken initiatives to take the permissions for that. It's not just like that. It doesn't happen just like that. So he has to take special permissions from ISOC. He has taken that. I thank you, Jolly, very much for all the support you gave us. And I also thank this academic hubs who have responded and organized in their auditoriums very nicely, systematically. I think they will submit their reports to us. Yeah. Thank you. Jolly, let's close.